Inside his shop in Havre De Grace, Maryland, Joey Jobs carves a block of white pine with the skill of a highly trained artist. His specialty, waterfowl, an area of expertise that runs in the family. He and his two older brothers, Bob and Charles, are all in the business of decoys.
Working on the water, making decoys. All of us, that's all we've done, you know. That's all we really know.
It's a skill they learned from their father, Captain Harry Jobs.
My father passed away, what was it, 3 years ago now? 2019. And you just can't turn off the thoughts of what we did over his shop. You think about it all the time when you're making decoys.
His legacy lives on not just in his son's memories, but in the Havre De Grace Decoy Museum, where his work and likeness are on display with other decoy greats.
These cases represent the masters of the craft.
Mike Tarquini is the board president of the museum, which fittingly overlooks the Susquehanna Flats.
This became a hotbed of hunting, both market hunting and sport hunting, which then created a need for decoys. And many of the most well-known decoy makers are in this area.
The town is now the self-proclaimed decoy capital of the world.
We have lived up to it and continue to live up to it.
On display, tools of the trade and some of the finest decoys ever made. This pair of John Daddy Holly decoys is valued at upwards of $500,000.
Today, though decoys are a form of art, there are more decoys that probably rest on mantelpieces in homes than actually float on the water.
It's a form of art that draws in visitors from around the world.
There's the pencil marks.
John Hilsinger and his wife are visiting from Alaska.
So far, it looks wonderful. You know, we love decoys. We're avid duck and goose hunters.
But you don't have to hunt to appreciate the talent it takes to craft these handmade pieces of folk art. Back in his workshop, Joey gives us a first-hand look at what goes into making a decoy, a process that starts by turning the body out of a solid block of wood on a pattern lathe. He then breaks out the handmade hand tools.
Come on.
Well, I don't know if I can do it.
You just seen me do it.
Yeah, you're going forward.
Put it up against your belly and angle it and do like that.
Refining the body with each pass.
Now keep in mind, we did this when we were like 6 years old.
All right.
That's enough.
That's enough.
A bandsaw is used to shape the head before hand tools are once again used to round the edges and add detail.
Can you take that out of there like I did that side?
I mean, I can try.
You got to follow that line.
That's not right.
Boom, you got it.
Drum and belt sanders are used to smooth everything further. It's the final step before painting.
Most of the decoys, you're going to handle it about 45 times before it's finished.
At any given time, the Jobs brothers, who all have their own shops, could be working on hundreds of decoys. And while most are just for display, they are seeing a shift.
People want to go back and hunt in the traditional way that they used to hunt with the wooden decoys. That's why last Christmas, right after Christmas, we made 200 decoys for one fella just over in Chestertown.
And when they're not in use, they can sit on the shelf for others to admire.
Do you consider yourself an artist?
I don't. I just consider myself as a decoy maker. I can't paint a picture. I can hardly draw a stick figure, but I can paint ducks.
Whoever is going to purchase a decoy, or let them decide if we're artists or not.
As the old saying goes, if it looks like art, walks like art, and talks like art, it must be a piece of art.
That's a good end. Where's Sean?
Right.
Oh, there
coming up
he
next on
is.
WJZ at 9, we go behind the lens. Sean is in the cube with one of those wooden ducks, and he'll join us in the studio to tell us more about that decoy-making family tradition.
My father passed away, what was it, 3 years ago now? 2019. And you just can't turn off the thoughts of what we did over his shop. You think about it all the time when you're making decoys.
Wow. Passing down generation to generation, this incredible skill, all on display this weekend in Havre De Grace. And Sean is here with us, and this is they did this one for you? They gave you this.
That's nice of them.
It now is on display in my house. Like, I
of course.
love it. It is beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of pieces of art, but this one,
And
I'm so
what
proud
kind
of
of duck do we know?
It's a red top. No.
I shouldn't make something up.
Well, I know somebody at home is going to be watching and say, that's not what that is.
Red-tailed?
It's red-headed something.
Okay.
So,
We saw you carving. You
Yes.
looked like you were doing a pretty good job,
well,
Sean.
funny you say that because
The duck.
The duck head that I carved.
All by yourself.
All by myself, no help at all.
No help.
No, Joey did take this. You can just see how quickly they work. They work on multiple ducks at a time.
Wow.
So they'll do the same thing over and over again. So he took this out of my hands. It was rudimentary. It was terrible. And within 30 seconds had it looking like this, sanded it
Well,
down.
he was raised doing it.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
since he was
in his
it's,
genes.
It's so cool. That
You
thing.
want a goose or a swan?
Canada goose, I'd love
Yeah.
it. So they float because they're made out of this light wood,
out
is
of the
that
wood,
why?
and there's a weight in them to keep them centered. They said now a lot of people use plastic decoys, and they said the plastic decoy makers are putting the traditional decoy makers out of business. You can buy a dozen for $100, but when you shoot those, they sink. The wood ones, when you shoot them, they stay up, they stay floating, and so that's why they're starting to see a shift. A lot of people are going back to the old way of hunting. They want these handmade wooden decoys. They're not cheap though. They
$500,000.
Well, yeah, for
That-
those. But the normal ducks that you would see, ones you would hunt with, $100 to $150.
Oh, yeah.
Some people order, like you heard,
Yeah.
200 at a time.
Who is this person in
Who
Chestertown?
needs 200 of them?
Avid hunter, very
Just
big.
decorate his waterfront with all these
That's
decoys.
what he would do.
2 other places are also famous for duck decoys.
Yeah, Chincoteague, and then there's a town down in North Carolina. They both claim to be the decoy capital of the world. However, I believe Havre De Grace has them. They have their own museum. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
have
and that's
museum.
quite a museum with boats and everything. So this weekend, people can go and look. If they've never seen these in person, where do they go?
Yeah, so they have the Decoy and Wildlife Art Festival. It is the 40th annual. They have it at the museum. There's a couple other locations around Havre De Grace, which if you've never been there,
It's beautiful.
It's a good place to go visit.
Oh, waterfront,
And here's
yeah.
another, just an excuse if you need one to get out of town and go check it
So
out.
as a non-hunter, the simple idea is you put the duck on the water. Other ducks flying over go, oh,
See
that
it.
must be a nice place to
Yeah.
sit. They land and boom,
Gone.
dinner.
Trickery. That's what it is.
Beautiful trickery.